This is episode 4 in our hashtag Mum Life series. Today we're talking about a slightly different topic for me, and it is all about juggling business and babies. I know you're going to love it, so enjoy.
Hey mama, I'm sending you wonderful pregnancy vibes. It's time for you to guide you through. Let's take some time for you. It's pregnancy with Physio Laura.
Hello mamas, welcome back to the Pregnancy with Physio Laura podcast. I am loving this series and I'm loving all your feedback on this series. We are up to episode 4 of 6 in our hashtag Mum Life series with the wonderful Jen Butler. You can find her on Instagram at Jen Butler Early Parenting. Go check her out. She's like my soul sister. We're very similar and I know you guys are loving this chat. So today, slightly different topic to what I guess I would normally talk about on a quote unquote physio podcast, which is not really what this podcast is about. That's one aspect of what I am, but I'm also a mum, and I'm also a mum who runs a business. And turns out I feel very passionate about business, and I felt it was really cool. Jen and I have so many chats just amongst ourselves about how we juggle business and having a family and having young kids and trying to find that balance between, you know, running an amazing business, but also being really present with our kids, and how do we juggle both? And I know we're not alone in this conversation. So I wanted to share it on the podcast because I know there's so many mamas out there also, whether you run your own business or whether you work for someone, but that whole career and motherhood juggle and trying to find that beautiful blend or balance or juggle or whatever you want to call it. It's so important to be having this conversation. So that's what Jen and I are chatting about today, which is awesome. I'm so excited. Now, remember, this is episode 4, which means we've already had 3 episodes released in this hashtag Mum Life series, which are all up inside my Pregnancy Posse program. So members, go check them all out. But we have talked about matrescence after 3 babies and what we've learned. We've talked about sleep and what that looks like for us right now, and different sleep tricks and tips that we've learned over the years, which have really helped us mentally to get in a good headspace around sleep. And we've also spoken about postpartum mental health, such an important topic. So if you haven't, you don't need to listen to those before today's episode, but I definitely at some stage would go back and check them out. Really, really important content in there. But today we're chatting all about business, and I think again, this is my reality right now. For example, I've just put Luca down for a sleep. She's in the room next to me. I'm jumping on the mic. I'm recording this intro for this podcast. She'll probably wake up in 45 minutes and then I'll be back in mum mode. So it's this constant for me. 2 days a week I work, and it's this constant taking my work hat on and off, and just learning how I can work within those frameworks. And it's really important for me to have boundaries around that. And even in this podcast chat with Jen today, just perfect timing, Georgie, her little baby, decided to come and join us during the chat, which was just perfect timing. Jen is feeding her little girl while we're chatting about the business juggle, which you couldn't have planned any better. But in this chat today, we go the behind the scenes look into our businesses and what they look like, what our goals for the future are, what boundaries we have in place around business time and family time, how we structured our maternity leave this time round, and what we planned during our pregnancy so that we could have a really wonderful postpartum experience. We talk about how Jen's philosophy about body before business, how she prioritizes her physical health before she does anything in her business. We talk about accepting this season of life and how it's going to look different right now compared to in the future, and how we need to lean into this newborn phase. We talk about batching our work to be more efficient. We also get into a chat about syncing our cycles. So whilst Jen and I are not menstruating yet, we do have a real fascination around the female cycle and syncing that in with your work schedule. And that's really fascinating. That's definitely a podcast I'd love to bring out in the future with another lady, Nikki, who knows a lot about that. We talk about what's lighting us up in our business at the moment. We talk about authenticity and abundance mindset in business and what our team looks like. So where we're outsourcing and where we're getting help with things. So it's a really, really fantastic chat. And if you are right now listening to this, you're pregnant and you are a busy mama also trying to juggle work and looking after your body and, understanding the pregnancy journey and wanting to lean into that, I really do invite you to come and join me and hundreds of other pregnant mamas inside my online membership program, The Pregnancy Posse, because I have designed this program for the busy woman. So all of the workouts that we do, which are specifically tailored to each week of your pregnancy, they're only 10 to 15 minutes long, because I know that we are busy these days, but I know just how important it is to keep your physical vessel that is holding this child, to keep that strong and healthy and well. And we want to feel good in pregnancy. We want to be strong for birth. We want to be strong so that we have a really great recovery after birth. So we do pelvic floor exercises. We focus on our posture, our core, our glute muscles, our arms, all of it, but in 10 to 15 minutes. So it is like the most efficient way to work out. Plus there's a whole library of education. There's a beautiful community and all of that. But if you're listening to this thinking, I'm busy, how do I do work? How do I work out? How do I learn about the pelvic floor? Come and join me and hundreds of other pregnant mamas inside the Pregnancy Posse, and I can give you it all on a plate. You don't have to spend hours researching. So I'm looking at you, busy pregnant mama. You can find out more at thepregnancyposse.com and you can trial it for 7 days. So come and chat to me inside there. But without further ado, let's jump into episode 4 in this #MumLife series, and let's chat with Jen all about blending business and babies. Enjoy. Georgie has just come to join us because she needs some food, and we are literally about to talk about how do we manage the business juggle. Also, massive lol at you having to hold the microphone.
Oh no, look at this. If this is not women,
Juggling 101.
women are amazing. No,
Oh my God.
I'm not talking to you, Georgie. You got to feed.
Hats off to any mum trying to do more than just the bare minimum.
Parent.
Keeping
I know.
them alive.
Seriously.
So this is the perfect segue, Jen, because I wanted to talk to you about business, because I think this is, I don't know, I don't hear a lot about women in business talking about the depths of the newborn days and how they juggle it. And I know you and I talk about this stuff together all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a real passion of mine. And I assume it is of yours as well. But like, I know for us both, it lights us up having our own businesses. It lights us up serving other women. And we want to do that while we're having our babies, but it doesn't look as glossy on the outside as it is. And I think it's good to have this discussion about how we do it and what our businesses might look like, just to let women in behind the scenes to see what that could look like. Because again, maybe I'm just not looking in the right places, but I don't see a lot of that, especially with newborns. I see a lot of like mums with primary age kids who are trying to do the business thing, but in the thick of it right now, I'd love to talk to you about it. So let's start off with, what at the moment is your work-life family balance looking like?
Wow. And this is like literally in the last 24 hours, I was like feeling completely unaligned.
Yes.
Where I was like, no, this is not what I envisioned, is me almost feeling like I was going straight back into it. Yep. So just to give it a bit of context too, like I probably did quite a bit of work between the ages of her being about 6 weeks and 12 weeks. I actually found it easy then, because she was like sleep, they don't spend a lot of time awake. She'd be turning around and having another sleep, and she wasn't like doing a lot of the shorter naps. So I actually had a bit of time up my sleeve. And so I actually found that I did a lot of work then, whereas it's now where I'm going, you know what, like I have the blocks of when she's sleeping, but when she's awake for about 2 hours at a time. I have a strict no work policy, and I refuse to, that's where I was feeling unaligned, I think, is I was feeling the pressure to work while she was awake. And I was like, no, this is not why I went into my own business. I actually went into it because I wanted to be able to support families the way I wanted to support families, but also to be able to have more time with my kids. And it's easy for that balance. Like when you're in small business, it never ends. Like it never ends. There's always an email coming through. There's always a DM in your Instagram. So unless, like, what I was finding is that I was more being led by what was coming my way in terms of inquiries and things, and not actually going, you know what can fit in for me. So yeah.
What can you talk me through, like, how many days do you work? boundaries have you put in place to make sure that that doesn't bleed out into your family life?
Yeah. So just recently, at the moment, my biggest support is the membership. So I run Q&As twice a month, and there's four different age groups.
Mm-hmm.
So that and everything in the membership is my top priority. So that looks like it's probably 4 hours twice a month that I have to dedicate to those. So that means, like, for example, this isn't a week where I've got the Q&A. So next week, it's sort of like what I've just recently put into place is that I'm going to have a week where I'm not going to have any work. So that'll be sort of, and like when I say not any work, there'll still always be the emails and, you know, the social media posts and being inside the membership, supporting the girls in the group and whatnot. But it's not going to be any sort of interviews. It's not going to be any live Q&As. It's got to be no consults. Even with my consults, I've got 2 available a fortnight. So there's only 4 consults available a month. And again, they only are available to people inside my membership or my program. So it's even just because the reason why I do that is because the families have access to all of this information that they can go through at their own pace. And then I'm there as that additional support if they need it. So it's not my primary support, you know, availability, because I just don't have that capability to offer as many one-on-ones with working around family life. So I guess my business model has changed a lot from when I first started to now. My business model is less about that one-on-one support. Like, it's available to families though that have already done the work through my digital products. So that is, you know, that's what I knew was going to be more family friendly, instead of that trade-off for time for money, you know, like where you only are making an income for your family if you're offering that one-on-one support, because it's limited in its, you know, in what I can offer. And I want to make a big impact to families too, where I can support as many people as I can. It's very hard to do that. If I could only do that on 2 consults a month or a fortnight, you know, it's very hard to support a lot of families. So that's very, and you know, to sort of sum it up, I sort of feel like I'm stepping more into my mat leave now. Like, I'll never completely have the 0 work mat leave that most women have, and that I had with the first 2, but that's fine because that's actually important for me. I actually really enjoy my work, so it's actually important for me to still be able to work a little bit. But when it was becoming a little bit unaligned, in that I was working more than I was, you know, that's when I had to make the change. How is that, Bubbles?
How amazing. Like, props to you, first of all, for acknowledging early on, before you get burnt out or feel like you've missed this chunk of Georgie's life, to acknowledge, hang on, no, I'm not in alignment right now. I need to shift something. I need to put in stronger boundaries. And I doubt your work is any less impactful at the moment. It's just that you're making sure that you're not bleeding that out into all the other areas of your life. You're having strong boundaries around the containers of family life and work life. And from just like the ins and outs and the logistical point of view, do you book in advance, Ryan, to have Georgie when you do your videos or content or Q&As, podcasts, all of that sort of stuff?
Yes, that's exactly what I do. So he knows that, and we've got this whiteboard out in the kitchen that is our like communication piece. Perfect. And we obviously talk, but it also helps hugely to have that for him to be able to see, all right, so, and I've tried to work around him so that it's at a time, you know, between 12 and 1 when he'd probably take lunch anyway, because he's really busy too. And so it's that time where he can see that he's got to be available between 12 and 1 p.m. on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the weeks so it's a really clear, and like, it's all subject. Everything will be subject to me potentially needing to change, like when those times are, based on what's right for our family. So if, for example, it turns out that I then need to do like change to a morning, like that's where times are flexible. Like, I'm making sure that the business is working for me and not the other way around. Like, the Q&A times probably aren't always the best for everyone. Like, maybe in the middle of the day, it's not a great time for but every family is going to have a different time that it works for them. And so that's what, even, you know, with my consults, I've got this strict, you know, on the fortnight that I'm doing them, the only consult time available is going to be at 2, because at the moment that's when she's sleeping.
Yeah.
So I'm literally working around like her schedule. Oh, you're so cute.
But like I mentioned before, I actually think you owning that this is what works for me and this is how I'm so protective of my family life gives other people permission to own that. Like, I think if we all just did that, because I think that's so important, like to spread that message that you are the number one. So, and like you said, you're never going to please everyone. So
No.
you could try and do something that's a no for you to try and make it a yes for everyone else, but it's still going to be a lot of no's out there. It doesn't work for everyone. And so you think, well, why am I doing something that's not working for me when it's still not going to work for everyone else? I might as well honor me first and foremost. And then you're going to show up better on your consults. You're going to show up better on your Q&As. You're going to be a better version of Jen Butler, Happy Baby Code, Sleep Support, whatever, you know, hat you're wearing at the time. I think that's so important to have those boundaries around. So do you work at nighttime or do you have a boundary around that as well?
I used to always work at nighttime, always. And now I don't. I think that because that comes into my self-care piece, is that by the time it comes to the night, hello, darling, by the time it comes to the nighttime, I'm ready to veg out. I'm ready to refill my tank and get in that self-care. What are you doing, darling? To get in that self-care that way. If I have to, of course I will, but it's like a strict, like I wouldn't be doing my Q&As or something that requires a lot of my brain power because I'm zapped by the end of the day. Like, and that potentially might change where the evenings actually become easier to do things like that. But at this stage, it is a strict, it's a no work zone. So really at the moment in terms of work, the pockets that I'm doing would be, I probably am not even really doing a lot of work when she is asleep for her first nap, because that's when I try and do the gym. So one thing I've really started to step into too is body before business. Whereas that was not like, and this is all me making changes like quite often. Like I'm often in self-reflection mode of going, are you out of alignment? And what's more important? So I used to get straight into work as soon as she was asleep. Up until then, I was always jumping straight into the business. And then I was like, no, go prioritize doing some exercise, something for you. Or if it's not exercise, it might just be something, you know, like that I actually enjoy. I stopped doing that, which means then it's in her second sleep that I'll get like a hour and a half work block maybe. And that's potentially it. So I think that's where I've really, and that sometimes kills me, I'm not going to lie, when you're on a roll and you're like, oh, baby's awake, like I got to stop now. I do look forward to having designated work time again, but I also am in no rush to get, you know, like I've ummed and ahed about nannies, or I am definitely not prepared for like and wanting to go down childcare just yet. But even just someone like a nanny in the house for a day where all your role is to feed, you know, or something like that. But at this stage, it's working. It's fine with what we're doing. And I have just, instead of going, how can I pull in more hours to work, instead I've realigned and gone, no, I just need to work less. And so that's where these boundaries have come in, is going, it probably means that over the next 3 months or so that I might not be doing a lot of interviews or things like that. It's about going, all right, let's cut it down to the basics about what do I have to do? And I'll build up again. This is the season of life that I'm in. Like in a 12 months time, I'll probably be, you know, I can do so much more. But right now, I'm only doing this. I'm only doing what is keeping the, you know, ticking over with what is out there.
Yeah, I think that's really important to know for those women listening to this who might be in that thick of, you know, maybe feeling creative pull to want to dive back into work and business, but then also wanting to be at home and be a mum. And I know you and I often talk about this where we're like, oh, 1 second we just want to be like a boss babe CEO, run an awesome business, but then we also just want to be like stay-at-home women who just bake cookies and like never think about business ever again. It's such a hard one to find like a happy medium. But I love what you're saying about boundaries. This keeps coming up, and this is obviously something you're really strong at the moment. I love that. And if anyone wants a good example of boundaries, email hello@jenniferbutler.com.au, because you will get an automatic reply reply. And I've saved this, Jen, because I really loved it. And it showed really clearly where your boundaries were. The automatic reply was super sweet, super kind. Thank you so much for contacting us. At the moment, this is where my priorities are, essentially. So it was like, if you're a member, this is what I'm doing inside there. If you've just got a question, we'll try our best, sort of thing. Like, again, I'm butchering it. Just go email her. You're like, do not add to my workload right now. Do not.
All these emails come up. I'm like, what the heck?
But I love that.
That was really important for me.
And I've seen a few mums in business who I get an automatic reply from, and it says, we answer emails on this day between these times, and we will try our best. And I'm like, yes, because I think sometimes we can think it's a robot behind the screen, where it's a mum with a baby vomiting all over her, trying to do her very best to get back to you. But we need to acknowledge that's a human, and people who can't respect that, obviously not the customers you want anyway, but it's just really good to put it out there first and foremost. So there's no question about how available you're going to be to people. And I even like what you've done there with prioritizing. Having those boundaries is really important. And we've spoken before about when you're in a service-based business, you can get a lot of questions. So people want to know, hey, Jen, can you help me with this? Hey, Laura, can you help me with this? And we so want to help people. Like you and I, at the core of us, I believe we just want to help everyone. We want to give everyone a hug and say, this is what you need to do. This is where you need to seek help. But we also know we don't have endless amounts of time. So even just prioritizing, and it feels hard to do, but saying like right now, my members are going to get the most of my energy. And I'll try my best to get to those other 100 DMs asking for advice right now. But it is most important for me to honor those who have honored me by buying into my services, by providing, like giving me, their trust that I'm going to pay for you to get your support, and saying, well, you know what, I need to honor them first and foremost. And I know for you and I, that's been really hard to let go of, because we get a lot of DMs asking for free advice, which is beautiful, and we love helping. But I get, again, is having that boundary around, we can't give everyone the answers. Like we can try our best, but we can't be
it's everything to everyone. 100%.
So I think it's really cool to hear how strong your boundaries are. And I think if you're anything like me, I was a past people pleaser, and I found it really hard to have boundaries and to not answer every single DM or message I got. I still find that really hard. And I still, to be honest, try and smash out as many as I can. But some days I'm like, you know what, I'm sorry, I'm never going to get around to that. And that's okay.
Yeah. And that I'm exactly the same, where it does kill me. I want to make sure I respond to every email, but this is the whole thing. Going back to what you were saying before, what's the worst that's going to happen if I can't? And I need to protect my energy. And so, like, I think you find yourself slipping back into bad habits, and I'll be trying to swap Georgie on the boob, and I'm doing this, and I'm trying to get back to everything. I'm like, just put the bloody phone down and be present with like your little baby's here,
I know.
Rubbing her hand, and like, it's just, I think every now and then you almost need to hit rock bottom. Not that I would say I was at rock bottom, but I was getting pretty burnt out. And it's that refresher where I've deleted my Gmail app from my phone, and, I'm like, get it off. I don't need it. If I need to check an email, nothing's urgent. And I've even increased the deadlines probably since we were emailing, where I was like, I'll get back to you within 3 to 4 business days. Like, and that's a long time for some people to be. But like, it's just the season of life that I'm in. Eventually I'll be back to being like, I'll get back to you in like 2 days. Like, no worries, because I've got 2 or 3 designated work days or whatever that looks like when we get there. But
also, when you actually say that, nothing, you don't work in emergency medicine.
No.
So nothing, you don't need to get back to someone in 2 days' time.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's right.
In that culture where we get fast, instant gratification, everything's speedy, but you don't have to opt into that, do you? No. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think, if you make it clear as well, so the expectation is set, just because you have more time doesn't mean you ever have to make yourself more available either. Like, the beauty of being a business owner is you get to design your business and your lifestyle to be whatever it needs to be to suit you first and foremost. And I often have that conversation with myself too. And you said it before, it's like, what's the point in running your own business if X, Y, Z? And I've often said to myself, what is the point in running your own business if you're up late at night stressing about how overwhelmed you are? Or you might as well go work for someone if you can't keep a handle on how much is bombarding your senses right now, that's on you, Laura, because you can't blame your boss. You can't, like outwardly project that. That's on you if you're overwhelmed. You obviously need to do a better job of outsourcing or putting stronger boundaries up. And I like what you said about the notifications. The only notifications I get on my phone are text messages, phone calls, and I have an app called Slack where I communicate with my assistant.
Yeah.
But it's very clear that she will only message me on that for things that need to be done right there and then. Otherwise, we have other programs we communicate on. And that's all I have. I don't have WhatsApp anymore for social things. I do not have my emails. And I've put such strong boundaries on it. So I only check my emails on Monday and Wednesday. And I don't actually state that. I probably should. People are like, why did she take 5 days to get back to me? Oh, whoops. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. But that makes me feel so much better. And then you know what? I actually get stuff done faster because then on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm doing it all in one. I'm not multitasking and switching from this to this to this to this to this. I'm bulk doing emails, or I'm bulk responding in the forum, or whatever it is that I'm doing, but I'm all there. And I don't know if you do this, but I just get myself in a real fluster when I've got 8 tabs open. I'm trying to do 8 things at once and I don't get anything done properly or efficiently either, even though it kind of feels like multitasking is a good thing. I actually think we're better off doing it less, but more at a time, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's they say that you should do it in those blocks, that it's better to batch those things together. And I agree, and it's also about I'm really into and I'm sort of trying to track my cycle and where you're feeling in your cycle and respecting your energy. Now I'm breastfeeding, so I don't really have a cycle, so it's a little bit awkward, but you can follow the lunar cycle, which I'm also trying to track. And sometimes when you do something and you're really articulate and you're so creative, you've got these great ideas, it's knowing when you're in that party cycle, and that's when you book in your podcast interviews or these different things. I'm really fascinated. I've got to do more work around it because I love it.
I'm actually recording a series with Nikki on menstrual cycles and the seasons as well. I'm so fascinated in this, and this is probably a side topic for a whole other day, but I started doing this. I've had 4 periods in 4 years, but many babies. But I lent into it and I did the same as you, Jen. So I only did lives on Instagram when I was ovulating. So when I was in that spring phase of my cycle, when I felt extroverted and outward and I had all this energy. And then on my bleed, I only did things that were not forward facing. So I only did emails and things where I could kind of hide behind the scenes because I felt a bit lethargic and I didn't want to have to pretend like I was chirpy, happy, ready to jump on a podcast, because I didn't feel like that. And I wanted to be really authentic. And even just acknowledging when I was in my more winter phase, my menstrual cycle, that some days I just didn't want to work and I actually just felt really uninspired and unmotivated. And I lent into that and I was like, cool. I know I don't hate my business, even though right now I'm ugh, hate everything about it. I know I just need to lean into this and rest, because then I found when I really lent into that, come my ovulation stage and my spring phase, mate, I was on fire and I quote unquote made up for the rest periods I was having because I was allowing myself to do it rather than trying to be a man where, I'm steady Eddie all 4 weeks of the cycle. I'm no, I'm going to have down days where I don't want to do it. I'm going to lean into that. And then when I'm up, I'm going to go hard. I'm going to go really hard and I'm going to get as much out of this period as I can. As you can tell, I'm really excited and I could talk about this forever.
I'm so interested. I was going to say, I've got to get in touch with Nikki to see if she does training around it, because I want to know more. I want to do more about it. And, it's not always I think to myself, I'd love to be able to schedule my live Q&As to reflect but it's, that's hard to do. But if it is just those little things, probably right now, if I was properly tracking, I'd be in the menstrual or the, the coming into the menstrual phase, because I'm not cycling, I don't know. Because of the way I've been feeling, that burnt out feeling, that questioning everything about your whole entire life. And but in a sense, this is what needs to happen, where you go, I am out of alignment. And then I'll probably come out and be like, all right, everyone, let's do this and let's book in that.
Jenny is back.
I'm still Jenny from the block.
Used to have a little, now I have a lot.
But like I do.
We need to do karaoke together. It would be a ball.
I'm very good at Disney songs, so just to warn you.
My genre is rap and R&B for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, back on track, Laura.
Yeah.
I would love to know what lights you up most about your business right now and what your next like short-term business goals are.
I love my membership. I love it. It's everything that I could have ever dreamed of. Because it is my holistic look at, like, I'm so passionate about that. Yes, we often talk about sleep. It's always sleep, and sleep's a huge component of what I educate families on. But it's so profound, making sure that you're addressing the whole child. Like, so, it is looking at feeding, like, like our short naps, or that's, we know short naps are really biologically normal, but sometimes there can be short naps or the really wakeful baby at night because they're actually windy because feeding's not going great. Like, so there's, it's really about going, okay, how is this going? Or the behavior element in the toddler. Toddlers don't just misbehave for funsies. Like, is it because they aren't eating well and getting in the foods? They're hungry. Like if you've ever heard of the Holt analogy, like hungry, what's the angry, lonely, or tired, so that kind of helps to sort of see that holistic look. It's like, have you got a tired toddler that was waking at 5, like, so it's my way of delivering my lessons in the way that I love to deliver them, the short, sharp, sort of, punchy, to the point lessons that I love. But then I get to do my live Q&As and really hone in on parents' problems, and the community inside the membership is just incredible, because I think that I'm attracting, obviously, families who share similar values because of the values I have. So we've all got these shared values, and so the community is so supportive of one another. And it's just, I love it. Like, and I know that I can make a grand impact with the community. So my next big thing, it's just going to be growing the community. Basically, it's going to be bringing more families in, but along with that, because obviously there's only Jen. And so if I'm growing the community, that's going to be also bringing in extra support. So my big thing is, bringing in some other people who are going to help to deliver the expertise and just support everyone within the community. Because I mean, as a maternal and child health nurse, obviously I've got a very good ground in everything. I would say my expert knowledge is probably in sleep. And I'm also a lactation consultant. But even that, I sort of think to myself, for me, it's about also saying, well, hey, I can teach about introducing solids, but can I bring someone in who is a pediatric dietitian who is like knowledgeable about this? And, so bringing in those experts to offer that additional support, to just bring in those layers. So it's a really, one-stop shop for the first 4 years of supporting families. So that's where my passion lies and where I'm looking to sort of expand.
I love that. I'm springing this one on you, but I'd love to know, do you have any like wild dreams for, maybe in 5-10 years time? Like, have you always wanted to do a TED talk, or, like, I don't know, something completely unrelated or maybe related, or anything just crazy and wild that you've dreamt of?
At the start, if you'd asked me that when I first started, I would have said that I wanted to be a speaker and to go around to events. And it's not that I wouldn't love to do that.
Yeah.
But I think now what has really lit me up is I really love the business side of business. And I think to myself, in another world, if I had gone into something like business coaching, marketing, something like that, like, those elements are really fun. I would love to hone in on and even niche down into this place where I could actually help other women in the health industry, maybe even specifically the sleep or breastfeeding, or help to develop their brand business. And I mean, that would require me to do extra training, because whilst I've done it myself and most of it's self-taught, I would say all of it's self-taught. I'd love to be able to help other women do that. I'd love it.
I
So
could
that
totally
is
see
so
you doing
random, but
that.
like that's actually where all of this has led to.
I actually don't even think you need other qualifications though, because
Wow.
you've walked that path before. And not to say that you're then going to teach people how to do your exact journey, but you can just help with the mindset around
Yeah.
business, like helping people ask the right questions and, like the strategies and all of that, they can probably figure out themselves. But, you can
Exactly.
be the coach that just helps them. Oh, I could so imagine you doing that.
Yeah, I know. Like
Yeah.
I just like really, and I love to see other women succeed. Like I get a lot of messages from women who will be like, "How did you start your business? How did you do this?" And I'm like, and like women who are also in my field of work, who is quote unquote competition. Like my theory is there is plenty of work for all of us. Like, and I really believe that. And so I believe in building relationships rather than, like the, I don't know, jealousy piece or she's doing more than me, because like we've all got the potential to do anything we want.
100% agree.
It's
And like
just,
you
yeah.
said, there's an abundance. If you have an abundance mindset,
Yes,
no one is competition. We're all here to collaborate and work together,
exactly.
and we'll find our unique audience for us. And we don't have to have that scarcity mindset that, well, but that person has my audience and therefore I need to, like steer clear. Yeah,
Exactly, because what you bring to is unique to you. That's how I've always thought is I am, and we were talking about this before we were recording, where the more you step into who you are, and like I'm a dag, I have sarcastic
really.
humor. Yeah. Did I mention before about Des and Troy?
I still recall when I first interviewed you and I said to my husband, because he was like, "You were laughing so much." And I was like, "Yeah, because she's bloody hilarious." And you said something like, "Oh, and this wacky." And I was like, I love you because you're just so you. You're not pretending to be like prim and proper Jen who
No.
sits here and talks like this. And like you are just being you. And that's why people connect to you so much. And a big passion of mine is being authentic in business. And I think it's so important. You will attract the people who want to hear it from you. There's a million people out there saying the exact same words you are,
Yeah.
but the way you say it, the tone, the person that delivers it is such an important factor. So, yeah, I think authenticity and being you is the most powerful X factor you have in business for sure.
Yeah, I think that is what's going to be like, no one can copy you, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that like, but as you mentioned before, at the end of the day, like when you're taught things, like I've had conversations with people where like we're saying the same thing. Everyone's saying the same thing, but it's the delivery, and no one can, that's you. That's how you deliver it and how you teach it. And yeah, I think that's so powerful is when you're just like, yeah.
And
And
no one can
I
replicate
like
that.
me, and I'm happy to be me. And yes, I'll probably annoy the hell out of some people. Like I call myself the biggest bogan ever. Like
That's why I
I'm
think I
just a
like you
country
so much.
gal.
Do you this is a good, I'll tell you if you're a bogan or not. Do you like Daryl Braithwaite's horses?
Oh, duh.
Okay. We are bogan sisters forever, because that I grew up with like a hockey club. We used to have like our hockey parties and whatnot, and it was just all the classic Aussie bogan songs. And my husband would tease me because I'd be like, "Horses, woo!" And it's like the final song of the night.
That's the
Love Jimmy
way.
Barnes. Bit of living on a prayer,
Living on a prayer. Yeah.
classics.
Nutbush
You and I.
City.
Yeah. And not everyone's going to vibe off that. And I'm sorry if you don't like
No.
horses. Well, guess you're not our target audience.
Yeah, like it's okay that everyone's got their people that they like, and it's okay. And like, I mean, I am welcome. Everyone is welcome into my community, but I might annoy some people, and I think it's taken me a long time to step into that too, because like, self-professed people pleaser, and it's not nice having someone not like you, but also you've just got to understand that not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay. Do you like everyone? No.
Exactly right. Yeah. And I remember in the early days, because I was one of the first physios to start some sort of online program. And so when another program would come up. I had a lot of really protective girlfriends, and they'd text me and be like, have you seen this, blah, blah, blah. And they would say things like, they're copying you or they're starting. And I was like, you know what, guys, like, I love you so much. And I love that you are like defensive of me, but no one is me. No one can be Laura Kalia. So I have so much confidence that I'm not in competition with anyone. You could do the exact pregnancy posse program and replicate that, but you're never going to be Laura. And I just have the
100%.
confidence that no one can replicate me. And that is my superpower. So I'm going to attract the people who really want to hear it from Laura. And those people are going to, yeah, they might have the exact same content or the exact same ideas, but they're going to attract, you know, the exact people that are right for them. So I think that's a really cool way to get out of that scarcity mindset and that like competition or being threatened by people doing a similar thing. There rarely is a truly unique idea. Like, you know, someone's probably done it before you, someone's going to do it very similar to you, but no one can be you. And that's where I think if you could be as authentically you as possible, no one can replicate that.
Yeah.
Now, just last question before I'll chat a little bit about the posse, but are you a one woman team or do you have help?
I have help, and I'm really stepping into bringing in more and more and more help. It started off with the VA, who is wonderful, and she's sort of doing all of my, you know, if I do the Q&A, she's uploading everything into the portal, and I really need. I'm actually going to speak to someone tomorrow about the course platform that I use, a VA that's more honed in to being able to help me there.
Yes.
Because again, I probably do a lot of that where I literally went through everything that I do. And I looked at it and went, what do you have to do? What can you outsource? So I've even started to outsource some of my social media, which is a huge thing. Like, and I must say, I still go over things and make sure that what's been written, like it's all my content, because it's like my podcast scripts or my posts I've done before. And she's just bringing a new lease of life onto it. But I do just like, that's just the perfectionist in me. Is just making sure that it's, you know, because it's a big deal having someone where you're sending that information to your community, making sure that it's right. So even that's I'm starting to move away from that. So like, I really am trying to step into like, if I don't have to do it, then who can do it? Yes. Basically. Yeah. So yes, there's probably, I'd say that it's me, but I've got a VA and someone helping with Instagram with the intention of more support coming.
Yeah, that's awesome. And VA is virtual assistant for anyone who's like, what are they talking about?
What the heck?
I think that's really good because I think sometimes people, again, look at that glossy. Jen's always happy. She looks great, doesn't she? She's always got bloody mascara on. Her hair's done. Like she's got it together. But it's good to know, I think, for some women that you have someone helping you. Like you've accepted that, like, I can't do this all on my own. And I think it's really important to go and say, what is the most important things for me to do in this business? Or what am I best at? And then everything else needs to be someone else's problem. I think because then you can serve more people, you can give more value. Because at the end of the day, you being in the back end of your membership, working out technical jargon, that's not your best use of your time, because you need to be teaching people, you need to be educating people, you need to be connecting with people. Somebody else will love to do that, and you need to give that job to them.
Exactly. That's their expertise. Like I actually I wanted to do a website upgrade, and I bought this beautiful template, and I actually love plugging away at that sort of stuff. But then I was like, Jen, no, you're going to find someone who can, you know, a VA who's handy with, you know, the website creations. Like it doesn't have to be a full, or I might even get a web designer to do it if the budget allows down the track. Like, you know, like it's just, stopping. At the start, I did it all of it. And I loved it. And then it's got to the point where I just don't have the time, and accepting to it, actually everything runs better when you've got help.
100%. And I think sometimes, because I started the same way, I did everything with my husband. He did help a lot as well, but I found it really hard to get out of that, like that grip I had on, but everything is mine and everything has my stamp on it, and trusting someone else to take over that, especially if it's forward facing. So I hired about a year and a half ago, my first team member, Kat, lovely lady. If you're in the membership, you'll have heard from Kat before, but that was really hard for me to let go, because I'm like, oh, but I'm now trusting her to talk to my members that's this is my baby. This is my creation. I have to trust somebody else to look after that in a way now. And I think, but once you do it, it feels so good. And once I've released the jobs I don't need to do anymore, and I've recognized that my best use is to get on the podcast and talk to people, is to jump on lives, is to create content. That is the best use of my time. I do not need to work out how to get, why is that member's password not working? And
Yes.
I had to really acknowledge that's not for me. And now that I've done it, it's so liberating. And now I'm like, whew, no way, Jose, I'm never doing that again. And I'm really, really good now at having boundaries around that's not a role I need to do. And if I don't have the capacity, if say Kat can't work it out, well, I need to get someone else. It's still not a role I need to do, sort of thing. So for me at the moment, like, we're in the works of creating an app and getting a postnatal program up and running, which is so exciting. And like, I hate talking about it, to be honest, because it's been in the works for 2 years now. And I've been so excited about it before, and then got people's hopes up and then not being able to deliver it. And I felt really upset about that. And I felt like I was disappointing people. So I've just recently hired a second person in my team, which has been a real financial risk. But I knew I don't have capacity right now to get this app off the ground and to get this postnatal program off the ground. So I can either just let the business tick along as it is till I finished having my family and I have more capacity to be able to jump into it, or I can still aim for the stars, but get someone else to help me do it. And that's what I really had to sit with myself and be like, what's more important? I was like, it is most important to me right now to serve as many women as possible and to take my beautiful Pregnancy Posse members. And right now, this is how I feel. I feel like I am nurturing them so well. And then they have their babies and I'm like, oh, well, good luck. See you later. And I hate that about it. I really it kills me every time a woman is like, oh, I loved your program. I love the Pregnancy Posse. I've just had my baby. I'd so love for you to have a postnatal program. What do I do? And I'm like, I shouldn't swear. I'm like, oh, I need to get it out there to women, but I can't. I'm so capped right now. So I've just hired this lady and I'm so excited. And it feels like more work sometimes when you take on a new person, because you have to teach them. You can't really just throw someone in and expect them to do it all. So, there's a lot more work from your end, but I'm just so excited to actually be able to get it up and running. And that
is so exciting.
No, that's my dream at the moment for the posse. And to be able to have the capacity someone else to do that is just, so exciting for me. And I'm only just coming out of that. I had some pretty strict boundaries around work after Luca. I pretty much didn't work for the first 6 weeks, similar to you. And it felt really, really good. But now I can feel myself coming out of that newborn haze and actually feeling some energy and some creativity and wanting to get my fingers stuck into it, but then also marrying that with wanting to be super present with my baby. So I have a similar boundary with, I do not work at nighttime unless absolutely necessary, but do not work at nighttime, and I do not work with my kids around. So phone's down as soon as baby's awake or other kids are home. And I pretty much have 2 days a week that I get it done. So my kids are at daycare 2 days a week, because a lot of women ask me this as well. They're like, how do you do this? I do not understand. And so I like to be transparent about these things, because I'm like, it's not just me. First of all, I have someone that helps me. I have an amazing husband like you who can take Luca right now. They must have just been walking past the house because I could hear her crying, but she doesn't need a feed. So we're all good. But, I have an amazing husband that I can book in. And if not, I was thinking about this because I could see how people could be like, oh, lucky you, your husband's around, because they both run their own businesses. Even if he wasn't, I would find someone to look after her. So I don't think it's easy enough to say, oh, lucky you, because if I didn't have that option, I would pay someone to come and sit in my bedroom or whatever it needs to be to allow me to have 2 or 3 hours. Or like you were saying before, pay someone to come to my house, like a high school student or, someone who's just looking for a bit of extra cash, to be at home, and I just feed. And then for the other parts of it, they look after the baby so I can get this stuff done, because it's such a high priority for me to run my business right now. It fills me up, but I also just love serving women that I'd make it work. I think I can see how it's easy. It's easy to find excuses. And I'm not saying that this is everyone's truth, but the other day I was saying to JA, I say a lot, oh, being a mum is my first role right now and I just don't have time. And I was like, is that me using motherhood as a crutch or as an excuse to not get certain things done? And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes I am just overwhelmed or at capacity. But I think it's really cool to constantly check in and be like, is that true? Am I actually using that as an excuse to not do the big scary thing right now? Could there be another way around it, sort of thing? So I find myself often having that dialogue with, am I not stepping into my greatness right now? You know, that quote, it is not our darkness we are afraid of, it's our light, or something like that. Or it's so true though. I think sometimes it's women particularly, like, it's so scary to like shine bright. And it can be easier to hide behind the veil of too busy, too many things. But when you actually go, no, I can make this work if I want to.
Yes.
It's really liberating, I think. So liberating. So
we self-sabotage a lot.
100%.
We often are the ones that get in our way. And once you actually start to be reflective and sort of realize that's when I think that you can really like meet your potential, I think.
100%. Yes, I agree. And I look at my husband, who's like an amazing entrepreneur. He has incredible ideas. He backs himself 110%. I've learned so much from him because he's like, if you have an idea or if you have a desire, it's just a matter of how. Like, what do I need to do to get there? Whereas I question myself so much, and he's really backed me in with Physio Laura, with the pregnancy posse. He's such a big part of why I do what I do. Because when on those days where I'm like, oh, it's all too hard, give it up. I'll just too hard. We'll do it when the kids are 10 years old. I'm like, no, if you believe in me, why don't I believe in me? I need to back myself in here and find a way. Yeah. Just be resourceful, like find a way. And oh my God, I could talk about business all day. I freaking love it.
Me too.
But hello, mamas. I really hope that you loved that episode and that maybe it gave you a really good insight into the behind the scenes look. I think it can look a bit glossy on the outside sometimes, the Instagram life where it looks like, oh, it must be so easy. Maybe that's what you think. Maybe you don't, but maybe you think it must be easy for Laura and Jen to run a business from home and have the babies work alongside you. And don't get me wrong, that is beautiful. It's so much of what I love. I don't have to leave my baby right now. She is in the room next to me. She is sleeping while I jump on and do this. I get to serve pregnant women and be a mum, and I'm so grateful I get to do both. But it's also not as shiny, I guess, or as highlight reel as it comes across. There's a lot of struggles. There's a lot of mindset shifts that I've had to make to be able to feel abundant in business and to not feel stressed and overwhelmed and feel like I get to be a present mother. And whilst we weren't trying to necessarily teach anything today, it was just a chat between two friends that we felt we wanted to air to a wider audience. I do hope you resonated with some of what we spoke about. And as always, I would love to hear from you over on my socials at Physio Laura. Jump onto my latest post about this podcast and comment, or jump into my DMs and let me know if you are a mum trying to work out this blend, and if you have any tips or tricks around how you juggle business and babies and what boundaries that maybe you had to put in place to be able to do both well, and what mindset shifts you had to adjust so that you could do it. And I could talk about business all day. It's a real passion of mine, which I never would have thought years ago I would be interested in, but I really love talking about business. For me, and I'm not sure if you feel the same, but business and parenting have been the two biggest personal development journeys I've ever been on. So running my own business and parenting my own children is like the shiniest mirror in front of my face, just showing me all the ways I'm not showing up and where I need to be better. And, it's really been the ultimate personal development tool. So it's such an amazing journey to be on. I love talking about business. So come and jump over at Physio Laura and let me know. And again, if you are a busy pregnant mama and you're listening to this and thinking, oh, where am I going to find time to do it all? Remember how important it is to prioritize your health, your mental health, your physical health during pregnancy. If you're finding it hard to find the time, if you don't know where to go for support and guidance and, give me the things to do when I'm pregnant, I don't know what to do, come and join me inside the Pregnancy Posse. I promise you it is the easiest way to navigate pregnancy. I give you the workouts, I give you the education, I give you the mamas to chat to, I give you me every week on a Q&A to ask all your questions. It is just the most efficient way I think you could do pregnancy. That's why I designed it, because I felt like I needed that during my pregnancy. So if you're finding it hard to fit it all in, 10 to 15 minute workouts, a whole education library, I walk you week by week through your pregnancy with what you need to know. So thepregnancyposse.com, trial it for 7 days. I'll leave that there. You can come chat to me then. But I will catch you soon for episode 5 in this hashtag Mum Life series, where we're going to be, it's quite a funny, light chat about mum hacks, mum fails, and where our reality of motherhood has not quite matched up to our expectations. So it's quite a funny chat. I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss any of these episodes being released. The next one's going to be a funny one. So I will catch you ladies then. Have a wonderful rest of the day. And I hope wherever you are, if you are a mother trying to juggle business and growing a baby, that it is working really well for you right now. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.